I do love to see rainbow flags everywhere in June. Don't get me wrong, that's not, but it is about true allyship.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Gorm TV. My name is Mamobo, Ogoro, and we're a web show and creative network that dissects the social issues that affect Ireland's multicultural generation. So today I have my wonderful panelists. We have some new voices and old voices today, and we're going to be talking about rainbow washing. So as you can tell, this month is the month of June, Pride Month, where we celebrate the voices and we celebrate people in the LGBT plus community. But as you can see on your social media websites, all the brands, all the big companies, everyone has rainbow flags all washed and flashed across their social media accounts. And I kind of was asking myself, is this true allyship to the LGBT plus community? That's what I want to talk about today. So I have my wonderful panelists today, and we're going to be asking ourselves some questions in terms of rainbow washing. So, Gareth, I want to go to you first just to ask ourselves for the audience, what is rainbow washing? If your own definition, it doesn't have to be anything particular or academic. What is it?
So my understanding of rainbow washing is basically when a company or organization in the month of June plasters pride flags, pride colors everywhere, but don't actively contribute anything to the LGBTQ plus community. So they'll be happy for you to come in because you've seen a pride flag in the street or on their website, spend your money and leave without actively like donating some of the profits to an LGBTQ organization or anything like that. So that would be my definition of it. And I think it's become more prevalent in recent years, definitely, especially with I think in the COVID boom of online shopping, there's been this massive kind of more social media presence of it. I suppose one of the best examples that I can think of rainbow washing is there was a certain game company, I won't name which one, that during the month of June, it changed its logo to the rainbows like everyone else did, but only in the countries where being homosexual was deemed acceptable. So it was like in Ireland and the UK, but like if you went to Russia, it was still the same logo. So it's like we support you, but only in instances where we will not lose money in doing that. So I think that's a kind of a good example of rainbow washing where it's all just pure performative.
Yeah, and it's to me, it seems like in terms of the company that you were speaking about, it seems like a marketing gimmick or something like that. Is that the case? Titty Beefcake, do you think that's the case?
Oh, it's completely the case. I mean, for example, I will name a brand, and this brand is Adidas. Adidas in 2018 came out with a Pride sneaker. It had the rainbow flag on the sole of the shoe, and it was, they released it for June. But in the same year, they were also the main sponsors of the Russian 2018 World Cup. So they were promoting and sponsoring a huge event in Russia, which has anti-LGBT laws, anti-LGBT propaganda laws. And it's like, so in Ireland and America, in June, you're going to sell us a sneaker, but you want to actually physically fund a government, a regime that would want to see what I'm doing. If I was to be in drag in Russia, I'd be put in jail. If I did it in the street, if I did it in public. And Adidas has like the gall to come out with a shoe and say, the same thing happened with Pink, the brand Pink. The brand Pink has also gone rainbow washed. And if you look at their logo for June in the past couple of years, you're going to see the P in the rainbow. But a couple of years ago, the CEO of the company openly stated that they would never hire a trans model. So it's literally like, it's hard to know if this company is actually supportive of LGBT rights, or is it just the bandwagon that they're on?
Yeah, it seems really just like, again, like I was saying, in terms of marketing, but it seems like this sort of like lip service as well, that on the outside, just to follow everyone else, and obviously, like Gareth was saying, not lose money. You're like, yeah, pro LGBTQ rights and things like that. But then when they talk to like their leadership and things like that, like you were saying in your example there, it's not the same. It's not the same. But people would argue like, but aren't they trying to like spread awareness and spread like be supportive and just try to gain hope and things like that for people? But what would you say to that, Fiona?
I think it's nonsense, because a lot of the time just simply slapping a rainbow onto your logo isn't going to spread awareness at all. Like, I find people who make that argument also make the same argument that, oh, but they'll actually lose out on sales from homophobes. But I'm like, is that really that big of a deal? And I don't think that homophobes are necessarily, or transphobes are necessarily going onto a website, seeing the rainbow logo and going, oh, do you know what? I'm going to look up stuff because this particular brand wants me to care about pride. No, it just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen at all. It like, you can, and my actual problem a lot of the times with these companies is they'll only do something during June, but the rest of the year they couldn't care less about LGBT people whatsoever, and they won't do anything. They'll only do it during Pride because they know that it's going to bring them in more revenue, and it's a marketing scheme. That's all it is. It's a marketing scheme and nothing more.
And it's really like telling. Obviously we live in like a capitalist world where obviously they would do these kind of things to gain more profit under the guise of allyship, let's say. But like, do you think they do this with like other movements as well? I think people are talking about it because it's in June and it's Pride Month, but do you think it's done with other movements? And do you think it's just, obviously we could say it's a marketing gimmick, but it just seems like it's just, again, like this sort of lip service that's done towards people of, let's say, marginalized communities to, one, seem like they're allies, and two, gain profit. But do you think they kind of do this with other communities, or is it just like the LGBTQ plus community? Gareth, this one is for you?
Yeah, like even during the height of Black Lives Matter, like the one example that popped into my head when you said it was, I don't know if it was Band-Aid, the company, but somebody making plasters, like, oh, like in response to this, now we diversified our range of plasters, like to match skin tones. And it was just like, you're only doing this because the pressure is on. Like, people of color have existed for all of time. Why is it only now that you're like doing this? And the fact that they are doing it is good in itself, but like, what were the reasons? Just because of pressure, the bandwagon? Like if Black Lives Matter like didn't happen, like would they have done it? What was holding them back from doing it in the first place? It's just because it was cool and trendy now to support people of color. Like suddenly they're doing it. And it's the same like in the month of June, where that's the trendy month to support queer people. Flags come out and then they just like everyone takes down the flags then the minute July 1st rocks around. Like it's like you see it all the time. Just like it's almost like marginalized communities have their little time to speak up about whatever issues they're facing, and then businesses just decide then that they don't exist then for the rest of the year.
Which is really sad. Like, it's really like you only care about us when it's sexy. If you get what I mean. It makes you kind of feel like, all right, our problems aren't enough for you to have continuous support of the movement, let's say, and things like that. And I was kind of, knowing all of this and being cognizant of all these kind of things, I was kind of hesitant to turn our logo and the Gorm logo rainbow color, because I was like, is this true? Obviously we are we are supportive of the LGBT club, but I'm just like, I overthink these kind of things. So like, what would you say to like someone, and this is the titty beefcake, what would you say to someone like that is in my predicament, i.e. me, and being like, what, like, because you don't want to seem performative, but at the same time you want to be you want to support the movement, you want to support people in Pride Month, and you don't want to just put it on and then take it off after a month off, but after the month of June. But what would you say to like an organization, a company, an initiative that would want to change their logo?
I would say, as a queer person growing up in the countryside in Ireland, I never saw the rainbow flag anywhere. I never saw it, you know. It was, I remember when I was 16, I went to the Art and Hobby and I bought a rainbow flag to bring with me to, oh my God, I'm getting jittery now just even talking about it. But I was so scared to buy this rainbow flag in the Art and Hobby. And I put it in a paper bag and I brought it home and it was like contraband. So I do love to see rainbow flags everywhere in June. Don't get me wrong, that's not, but it is about true allyship. It isn't about the fake allyship. If a company would like to support the LGBT community, maybe in the branding, I would probably say, you know, add something that like a bit of the proceeds of this product goes to charity. I do think it's also more telling that when it comes to rainbow washing, a lot of companies that do rainbow washing do nothing for, I think it's AIDS for HIV AIDS week, when some companies will go red for HIV causes. And if a company is supporting kind of HIV week and Gay Pride Month, that's usually a good showing that that company is got the queer customers' interests at heart. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I think it is more of it does happen in Ireland, but it is more of an American thing where like you will have companies like Chick-fil-A who now have got rainbow banners on their logos, even though a couple of years ago they also had some very homophobic things to say about the LGBT and transphobic, queerphobic things to say about the LGBT community.
And the owner of it.
If a company is to change their logo to the rainbow sign, which I do love to see, I love to see it. I love the spreading of the LGBT community, but I need a bit more from it. I need to show true allyship. I would like to see that a certain amount of proceeds go to charity, or that they're promoting a certain LGBT niche. Like if they're only supporting gay rights, they're not supporting trans rights. You know, if they're in 2021, if there's a company that instead of changing to the pride color, changes to the trans flag, or changes to the, you know, or just to a flag to a part of the LGBT community that isn't cis white gay men, something that's a bit more niche. And to make on that point, Mamobo, I also kind of sometimes get a bit like I perform lip syncs and drag to sometimes to Black music, you know, have the N-word in it, and sometimes like Nicki Minaj, you know, I'll overthink the song and I'll overthink it. Like, should I be performing the song because it's, you know, as the N-word in it, you know, even I will never rap it, or if I was rap, you know, I'd get rid of it. But if it's part of the song that I can't change, you know, like what, you know, lots of different things. And I was like, as long as I love the song and I'm doing respect to the song and respect to the artist, and it, you know, it is good. Like because you were saying you had you were kind of overthinking the LGBT thing, but I think as long as we are all conscious about lots of certain different movements that are happening in society, even if we do begin to overthink it and we go a bit, you know, kind of we're not 100% sure what we should be doing, I do think changing the pride flag or putting the rainbow flag out there is very important. It's just done not always with the best intentions sometimes, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, especially with like the larger corporations. And thanks for clarifying that for me. I was just like an overthinker in general. But
I get you, I'm the same.
But it's this thing with large corporations that have billions of excess money that only do this in terms of like for their own gain. Obviously, with all these companies, they want to do them for their own gain, but it's this idea that you have to talk the talk and walk the walk. Exactly. Yeah. So like, what do you think like Fiona, what do you think large corporations can actually do in this sort of sense? What should they do? Should they say they're accountable and say like they're sorry? Should they do like and to some it would seem like a gimmick as well, like, oh, we're giving 100,000 to this, da, 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 da. So what do you think like they should do, like if they've been called out in terms of rainbow washing?
Yeah, so I think there's like a lot that they can do. I feel like, first of all, corporations, and it's not just with rainbow washing in June, it's the same in February for Black History Month. They need to show us the statistics of how many queer people or Black people actually work in their companies, and how many of those people are actually in senior positions and not just all of the low bar positions. Because that would first of all show that they're working on having a diverse group of people working for these corporations. And then on top of that, I do feel that for companies that have in the past been caught out on certain things, like CVS is actually an example of one where they would slap the rainbow across the board during June, but the rest of the year the CEO of it is donating to congressmen who are putting forward anti-trans bills. So, you know, I feel like if that's the case and you've been caught out, you need to be transparent about that, and you need to properly work towards having the information out there that yes, our company used to do this, but also this is what we're actively doing to avoid this kind of mistake again. And then I think other things such as like making sure to spread awareness against about corporations that actually are good for LGBT youth, for example, you know, like stuff like that, basically. So I think it starts with making sure the actual company represents the type of people that they're trying to represent with their rainbow logo or whatever. And then making sure that they've owned up to their past mistakes and are showing how they're actively working towards bettering their company and their policies. And then again, staying on top of staying informed on the services available to LGBT people and LGBT youth. And exactly as Tilly Beefcake said before, making sure that they're also considering other aspects such as HIV Awareness Week and stuff like that.
Definitely. And I agree with that. But some people, I was just thinking on your note in terms of them addressing and getting the statistics of those who are in let's say the LGBT plus Q plus community, Black community, whatever community. This is just a question that we've had in previous conversations, but in Gorm TV, but do you think that would be beneficial? Yeah, you were saying it is beneficial in terms of what you were saying, but like, do you think having the statistics there, do you think it's just like a show like, oh, we're doing this, but not actually getting to the crux of it? And I know you were talking about them supporting, let's say, HIV Week and all these kind of things, but does actually having, because those people they're generally hired on the merit of their work, not their identity markers, but do you think having that is a good thing? Gareth, can I go to you and then back to Fiona if she has anything to say?
Yeah, no, I think it is a good thing. I think it's kind of a way of almost like scaring big corporations who've been hiding behind this kind of rainbow washing for so long. It's another way of holding them accountable, I suppose. And as Fiona was saying, like even when they do hire people of color, queer people, it's often at the lower levels, and when you go up the higher levels, it's all white middle-aged men again. So I think it's important to kind of hold them accountable, going like, and then it kind of like, even like people always say like, oh, hire them for their work, not their identity marker, which is completely true. But like at the same time, you have to be asking like, why has no person of color ever sat on your board of directors? Why hasn't a queer person ever made it to, I don't know, supervisor in your shop or whatever? Like those are the type of questions that you have to be asking as well. Like the whole thing of releasing these like lists of diversity in universities and workplaces, it isn't to like scare companies into hiring or promoting people just for the sake of diversity. It's to start asking the questions of like, why haven't they made it to this place? Why haven't they gotten this role? So it's more about introducing us to like places that need to be looked at to wonder what's going on. Because then you find out, oh, it's just, I don't know, Karen from finance hates queer people or something, or like,
like hiring,
like, or you find out like Bob's a racist or whatever. So like, so it's just, I think it's a great way of getting to the crux of the problem. These lists definitely won't solve the problem, but I think they're a great way of getting started and asking the questions of what can fix the problem.
Definitely. And does anyone have any sort of feedback to that? I'm just going to be closing the conversation real quick, but does anyone sort of have any feedback or any sort of final takes on the topic of rainbow washing and what we can do next and how we can just stop this sort of like lip service?
I suppose like it's just a matter of like, I think educating companies on like what you can do. Like one good example of not help necessarily to the LGBT community, but like Abbey River Cafe in Limerick City, they're what would you call them, loyalty card or membership card, whatever you want to call it, where you get like 1 coffee free after 10. They donate that. So what you would have spent on that 10 coffee, they donate to Jigsaw. So like it's something as small as that. Instead of you just getting a free copy, they actively then give that money to somebody who needs it. So I think it's just showing, like, because when people think of, oh, helping the community, they think of like hundreds of thousands must be donated, or it's always a check. It always boils down to money. But like you can do stuff, small things like that, I think really show, like, yeah, having your rainbow colors is great, as Titty Beefcakes has been saying, of showing queer people that, like, yeah, we know that you exist. But I think, as we've been saying, you have to kind of put your money where the mouth is, kind of like thing, back it up with facts, like aid, whatever else. I don't think it's just enough just to like plaster it with rainbows.
Definitely. Does anyone else have anything to add?
I will say, when I got the call from you, Mamobo, for rainbow washing during Pride, I was like, rainbow washing during Pride, and you're going to get a drag queen from Pride to talk about rainbow washing? I thought it was very funny. But like, that's, you know. One thing I will say about rainbow washing is it just, I think the companies, large companies, if they do genuinely care for the LGBT community and they want to assert their support, I will need more than maybe just changing the logo. I will say maybe adding in, like, you know, some text, same thing that Garrett was saying about just kind of holding them accountable, you know, because if you come out during Pride Month, I don't know, it's weird. It is weird that only during Pride do I see a whole bunch of corporations genuinely caring about my existence. And it's hard, like LGBT people, you know, sometimes we find it hard to see the validity in our own existence because of social norms, because of just how we were raised, and to kind of get a weird sense of validation from a company is nice. But it's a big world. These are billion-dollar corporations. They can definitely do it a lot more.
Definitely. Fiona, do you have any final touches?
The only other thing I want to just quickly add is I do think it's weird when companies specifically want LGBT people to be like, oh, tick. Like me personally, I never tick the bisexual thing. I just tick other and just say no answer, because I'm just like, I don't want to be hired on that basis and I don't want to be hired off that basis. But also I think companies need to be a little bit more transparent about the process that staff have to go through if they are discriminated against at work, because I can't actually name names, but there is a hospital in the area that genuinely does not deal with incidents. It will just stop at the initial complaint process, and they'll just be like, oh, since you have no proof, there's nothing we're going to do about it, even if a member of staff has been caught saying a homophobic slur or a racial slur. And the problem is this same place then sent out emails to all of its staff being like, oh, we're trying to work through a better way of dealing with this kind of discrimination at work. So please talk to us about your suggestions. And then I went to them with my suggestion and I never received a response from it. So I was just like, good luck, goodbye, see you later. Like, it's just, so I do think like companies just need to be way more transparent about what they are actively doing to help make people working for them feel more comfortable in their queerness or in their sexuality or in their gender or anything, and as well as making sure that they're putting all the information they possibly could out there about like services that are available to trans youth and to LGBT youth and LGBT people in general as well. I always focus on the youth because they're the ones that are stuck at home with their homophobic parents.
Definitely. Thank you guys so much for having this conversation. I think we're at this stage where people are just tired of seeing the fakeness, for lack of a better term, from huge corporations and huge people with money, but let's say. So it's we really need to get into conversations where we can actually look deeper under the surface level, where they're just slapping rainbows all across their social media or across their platforms, and really think critically about, okay, what are you doing in the other 11 months? So it's really important to have these sort of conversations, and I hope you at home really enjoyed the conversations with our special guests and old and new voices in Gorm TV today. So thank you so much. Bye-bye.